This
Thank you all.
conference will now be recorded.
Welcome to the Iowa State Interoperability Communication System Board meeting. Holly, if you would please call roll.
All right. Wendy Hess.
Present, from Woodbury County, representing communication centers.
Travis Solom.
Present, Warren County.
Bridget Edson. Mindy Benson. Michelle Bischoff.
Present, representing Iowa Professional Fire Chiefs in the city of Des Moines.
Curtis Woten.
Present, volunteer fire department.
David Ness.
Municipal Police from Des Moines.
Dan Schaefer. Dan Fank.
Present, representing Sheriff's Office, Worth County Sheriff's Office.
Jeff Vandewater. Rhonda Broaddus.
Present, Marshall County, representing member at large.
Anna Voss.
Present, representing the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy.
Cindy Hike.
Present, representing the Iowa Health and Human Services.
Daniel Brown.
Present, representing Department of Management and DOT.
Michael Strausser. Heath Hove. Patrick Updike.
Patrick Updike, present. Iowa Department of Corrections.
Blake Darushi.
Present, representing Iowa Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management.
Jessica Turba.
Present, representing the Iowa Department of Management.
And are there any legislative members? Okay, we do have a quorum.
Great, thank you, Holly. I appreciate that. And welcome everyone to the December 14th Isicsb meeting. Appreciate everyone's time, and we have a fairly full agenda, so we'll dive in. I will entertain a motion for approval of today's agenda with one amendment, and that is to item 17D. We need to also include, in addition to the channels that are listed, the renaming of 7iTalk 1D, 7iTalk 2D, 7iTalk 3D, to 7 Iowa GTAC 1D, 7 Iowa GTAC 2D, and 7 Iowa GTAC 3D. So just want to add that to the agenda, that's included and was included in the information that went out for comment. So that was a detail that we need to amend. Are there any other amendments to the agenda that are necessary?
So moved.
Second by Fank.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the agenda as amended, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Approval of the minutes from the November 9th meeting.
I didn't catch who was that.
I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
And a second.
Michael, second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Excellent. That brings us to the SWIC report. Haley.
Maybe having some.
Yeah, she was just on. She said in the messages she couldn't hear the room, so it looks like she logged off to try and re-log on.
The room is very, very faint. So I too am having challenges hearing the room.
Probably talk into that microphone.
where are we at here?
We're waiting for Haley to come back on for the SWIC report.
Okay. Sorry. This has been a little confusing this morning. I apologize.
I might suggest that we jump to Blake if
I
he's
was-
available.
Nope, agreed. I was just giving her a minute to see if she just popped right back on.
Hi, this is Haley. You joining from
Hi,
the phone.
Haley. Yep. We are ready for your SWIC report, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry about that. Something wrong with the connection here. Just a reminder that we have the final working day for the skip on February 8th. That'll follow our regularly scheduled Isicsb board meeting in the afternoon. So hopefully everyone has that on their calendar and can attend. The document will define our strategic direction and priorities over the next 1 to 3 years. So that involvement is very important. Moving on, work continues on the REM CDP grant. Currently actively looking for a part-time 780-hour employee to assist with that project. Reach out to me with any interest. The group is currently looking to schedule our first site visit, agency needs assessment in Carroll County mid-January. Next week, I'll also be working with Unity Point Media Team to create an informational piece of media we can distribute out on this project, and so we're looking forward to that. Last week, I attended NICWIC, which is the National Council of WICs. I was in Florida. It didn't even snow up here while I was away, so I won't gloat about the weather down south. But I will say that is a very beneficial conference. Lots of informational discussions, successful networking with some of our bordering states, and also a place for Iowa's concerns to be voiced up to the federal level. SWICs are a really diverse group of people I have found over the last year, and the conference does create a little bit for everyone. I did request at a couple of meetings that I was at that they provide invitational travel for another person, the deputy SWIC or an Isicsb admin, to go along. I think that would be very beneficial in the future. If not, we may look to ask the board if they fit that's a good opportunity. The annual report to the legislator is due January 1st per Iowa Code 80.29, and we are working on that. So it will be submitted by the deadline. The only other thing I have of note is, I'm not sure if it's going to be discussed in training, so I'll mention it here. Wisconsin is planning a communications leader train the trainer course and has opened that opportunity to Iowa students. The class will not be scheduled until the prospective students are identified so they can see if they have a full roster. So if you have any prerequisites, if you have fulfilled the prerequisites for that class and are interested, please get in touch with me, and I'll put you in touch with Eric Benson, their deputy SWIC, who's responsible for training and exercise. And you can take a look at that course and the prerequisites on page 50 of the technical assistance guide. Otherwise, that completes my report. There'll be a couple other things in new business I'll discuss, but I'll take any questions.
Michelle's muted.
Michelle, you're muted.
Thank you. Thank you, SWIC Nichols, for the report. Appreciate all the information that you shared with us. Before we move on to the next reports, Holly, can you mute your microphone when the room's not speaking? If there's a really loud warble on this end, and for everyone that's virtual, and it's kind of distracting to the reports. And then unmute if there's any questions or comments for the room, or the person giving the reports in the room.
Okay, just a second, Michelle.
muted it. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just mute it.
Are we good?
Oh, good. Dude, so I don't know if it's going to go a whole meeting.
Ask if they can hear you now.
Can you hear us now?
911 council report, Blake DeRushi.
Yep, thank you. Just a couple quick things. We also have a legislative report that is due and has been submitted. So that's available on our website or will be soon. That's from the 911 program itself through the Department of Homeland Security Emergency Management, not necessarily the 911 Council. Second, if you are interested in 911 topics, we did spend a little bit of time today, and I'm not going to rehash all the details here, talking about kind of a technical issue that we found, very specific to U.S. Cellular Samsung S20 series phones and some irregular call behavior. So went into a little bit more detail on that at the 911 Council meeting. If you're interested, I would encourage you to either reach out to me individually or review that as it gets posted to YouTube. It could be fairly critical to review, again, for those that are interested in 911 topics or PSAPs. So that is my report for the day. I would take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Blake? User Group Committee, Chair Hess.
Good morning. The user group met on November 16th, reviewed applications, and then we spent the rest of the time participating in the skip review webinar. So that's all I have to report.
Great. Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate it. Are there any questions for Chair Hess and the user group? That brings, excuse me, that brings us to the Finance Committee and Chair Brown.
You guys able to hear me?
If Chair Brown is in the room and speaking, we're unable to hear him.
Yeah. Okay. Stand by here.
Are you guys able to hear me online now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Finance was pretty standard. We did not meet, but I did review financials, very standard month. Nothing out of the ordinary or unusual there. With that, I'll take questions. We're having some audio difficulties transmitting, by the way, in the room, in case you have not noticed.
Yeah. Yep, we've noticed. Okay. appreciate working through those technical challenges. Are there any questions for Finance and Chair Brown? Governance Committee, Chair Ness.
Governance met on December 4th and reviewed a few policies, I believe, that are under new business. They met our approval, and I think they've worked through other committees as well. So either for new or for publication. But brief report this month. Thank you.
Great. Appreciate your efforts. Thank you. Are there any questions for the Governance Committee? Operations, Chair Edson. Don't believe she was present. Nichols, do you have a report? Or is she present?
Sure, yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't hear her on. So we did our skip 2-hour review webinar, and we'll bring the information to that final workshop.
Great, thank you. Any questions for the Operations Committee? Training and Outreach, Chair Solom.
We did not meet since the last meeting. The only thing
touch base on is the INTE class. Last I knew we had 4 seats available. So if anybody had any interest, they're gonna have to fill those seats quick. And then we were gonna talk about the ComEx and ComL class later on this agenda. So I've got nothing else to report.
Chair Solom, your report was very faint for us to hear online. Is it possible for you to get closer to the microphone?
I think. Travis, if you come over here.
Okay now. How about now?
Yes, we can hear you now. Thank you.
Well, Holly's computer's the hotspot. Okay, I don't have a whole lot to report on. We did not meet since last meeting, but the INTD class, last I knew, I believe there was only 4 seats available, 16 filled. I don't know if that's still, there may not be any opening, but if anybody's still interested, they're going to have to act quick. And then ComL and ComX, I believe, are later to be addressed in this agenda, so I'll just leave it until then, but that's all I've got.
Great, thank you. Appreciate the report. Any questions for training and outreach? Technology Committee, Chair Updike.
Yeah, thanks. Technology met on December 5th. We didn't meet in late November because of the holiday. Real briefly, we continue to discuss the interoperability subject between Iowa and Minnesota and potentially some of the other surrounding states. So not much there, but we keep looking at it because it's a pretty large map to cover on that subject. One additional thing, I've been working on the ICS 217A, and I don't know if Holly can put that on the screen. Otherwise, if she can let me share my screen, I can pull that up and share it with everyone.
Just a second here. Is it this one? Patrick?
Yep, I'm just seeing your agenda items.
Okay. I'll just hold on. I'll give you control and you can show your screen.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Can you see this Excel spreadsheet?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So this is your ICS 217A with all of your VHF, UHF, 700, 800, VHF, point to point, all that stuff. So right here, I've kind of got it prepped and ready for the potential for 6 more frequencies in the column that's currently labeled 7iTalk. But the bigger thing is that I've listed the air to ground channels because we did get a license call sign issued to us, WRYVs 868 for the air to ground frequencies. And so if you look here, I've started populating this. I'm not a wizard at Excel spreadsheet, but I'm trying to put things in here that refers to policies and standards, caveats and disclaimers, aircraft limited to 2 watts. I want to run this through the group of technology people because as you can see, these iTalk frequencies are listed as simplex direct, but these are duplex frequencies, and I do not think, and I just want to confirm it with the people in technology that if I list them as duplex direct, it's because you can set up shop on one radio on the ground and another radio in that bird to operate in a duplex fashion and not so much a repeater type setup. So I want to run that through technology and clean some of this up so that it's somewhat consistent with the rest of it, but it also addresses the the specifics of the air to ground channel. So we'll get this fixed so it's easy to read and you're not looking at just partial sentences. So that's what we're working on until the next subject. I can leave that up in case anybody has any questions.
Are there any questions for the Technology Committee? And specifically the 217A, as Patrick displayed for us? Excellent. Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate your report and the work
Thanks.
you're doing and your team. FirstNet Broadband Committee, Chair Benson.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. The
Good
FirstNet
morning.
Broadband Committee did meet on this week on Wednesday, December 13th. We did not have any actionable items at that time. FirstNet briefings will be brought to us by our AT&T partners later on in this meeting. I'll accept any questions.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for Mindy and the FirstNet Broadband Committee? That brings us to other reports. Is there, and the first item there is information sharing among board members. Are there any board members that have information that they would like to share with the rest of the board? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the Isicsb System Administrator report. Scott or Connie?
Scott here. Can you hear me okay?
I can, thank you.
All right. I'll start off with a maintenance update. We're down to a handful of sites remaining, state Isicsb sites for RF maintenance. There's 3 sites remaining, Underwood, Glenwood, Fremont. Those maintenance dates are to be determined at this point. Hopefully finished by the end of the year, if not early January of next year. Mitchellville generator has suffered rodent damage to some wiring. Technician's going to be scheduled to go out and look at that site. There's some tower light issues at a couple different sites. O'Brien, parts are in. That will be serviced in the near future. Zwingle is waiting on a beacon replacement, and that is waiting on scheduling for a tower crew. Beyond the maintenance, I've got new Isicsb numbers. Numbers from November of 23. Radios currently stand at 35,555. That's up 763 from the previous month. Talk groups are at 3214, and that's up 55 from the previous month. And our push to talks are hovering around 2.7 million. And that actually dropped about 50,000 from the previous month. And with that, that completes my report, and I will take any questions.
Great, thank you, Scott. Are there any questions for the Isicsb admins? That brings us to the FirstNet Authority. Tom Lampy.
Hi there. Tyler's not available today, but I'm just going to give a short report.
Okay, fantastic.
We're closer to the meeting with the governor at this time. I've got the advance sheet. That's just a good step forward. That's what they do when they normally come to meetings. So I have that. So we're going to get closer. What we're leaning towards coming to a FirstNet Broadband Committee regular meeting to be more efficient at that. One question, is this meeting still open to the public? Is it always posted to the public? The Broadband Committee meeting? Or is it a private meeting?
The individual committee meetings, I don't believe are posted publicly. No. Holly,
okay.
Can you confirm that? I mean, they're not posted, are they?
Are you talking the committee meetings?
Correct. That was Tom's question.
Yeah, they're They're posted public. I mean, like they're on the calendar and stuff.
But are they open to the public?
I don't have objection to if the public were to show up. I mean,
Well, the reason I'm asking is there's sensitive information in the meeting, proprietary information from AT&T that if it is, we may have to change the direction of how we approach this meeting type. I was curious.
I don't.
Well, so for that FirstNet meeting, are you talking about like with the governor update?
Yeah. Well, the normal broadband subcommittee meeting you have at DPS, is that open to the public?
This is Haley. Those are open to the public.
Okay.
That's my understanding. I would ask Chris maybe if he's still on to jump in, but those are open and the links are available.
That's my understanding as well, is that those are published and available on the website. It's rare to have someone from the public, but there's also not a really strict committee list either. Whomever shows up is welcomed.
Okay, I'll get back with you on it. I'll make sure AT&T knows that, because there's some proprietary information as well as other information from the authority that we post or we talk about. So I'll get back with you, but that's the plan right now.
Is there a date?
Well, when's your next meeting? They gave the meetings, AT&T gave the meeting dates of your broadband subcommittee to the governor's office, so they know what dates you meet. So they'll probably pick one of those. So it's either going to be next month or in February. I would hope it'd be next month.
Okay.
The other thing I have is Iowa will be the last one that I'll do in my region for the FPU. I just finished Missouri yesterday down in Jefferson City. Some things to be aware of the meeting, and I do have you, Michelle, and Mindy as the attendees. Is that still accurate? I take it.
I'm not sure what FPU stands for.
Oh, the FirstNet progress update. Sorry, with the meeting with the governors and the meeting with Iowa. I have you and Mindy as the attendees. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So I'm sorry that there's so many acronyms. FirstNet Progress Update is the governor's meetings across the nation it's designed to do an update, 5-year benchmark that we're doing with all the states to ensure that we met our 5-year benchmark. Some things in the meeting to be aware of. There's some questions that we'll sometimes get on how we spend our money, how we spend the reinvestment dollars. There's also questions sometimes from who's on the network, things like that. So that's just kind of the structure of the meeting. It's usually no more than 45 minutes unless there's a lot of questions. But our presentation itself is probably only about 20 minutes long. So that's kind of the time frame, just for your FYI. The other thing we're looking at is the HPUE solution, which is the high power user equipment solution, solving some coverage issues. We monitor that across the country very closely because that goes into reinvestment dollars and how we solve coverage. I will hopefully be issued one soon so I can have it, so I don't have to always get a demo. So I'll be issued that piece of equipment hopefully, and I'll be able to come to your areas to show that. If you have some spots that you feel are on the fringe or stretches of roadway that you'd like to test to see, I'll have that, and I can come visit with you and do some of those testings. We did recently give one to an ambulance service in eastern Iowa for a stretch they had that was a problem for them when they were transporting people in the ambulance, and we put that unit on there to completely solve their issue. So that was positive. Downsides of those is it is another piece of real estate, another antenna, which when you start talking about squad cars, it's a real big deal, but one more antenna. But the other thing, this positive thing about it is ambulances and fire trucks, there's usually a lot of real estate on there, so that helps solve that issue. But they do make some smaller ones, but the antenna itself is probably 8 inches long and probably 3 inches wide to get that high power. But hopefully that will, as technology progresses, that will get smaller. But that's some of the things that are some of the downsides of it. So continue to monitor that. We also monitor across the country the progress of integrating the LTE and LMR across the country and how people are doing it and how they're what applications they use and what scenarios they use it in. So we monitor that. That's pretty much my report for this month. Next year we'll be very busy. I think I've reported this before, that I will be coming out and asking for information on, okay, we know where these coverage gaps are. Is that accurate? So let's just pick Southwest Iowa. We know that this is a coverage solution or problem. Is that an accurate depiction of what we're seeing? So we confirm that that is in fact the area where public safety needs the coverage. We know where those gaps are, but we want to confirm with public safety to ensure that that's what they want, that coverage. That's what's going to be happening next year. So with that, I'll take questions.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for the FirstNet Authority and Mr. Lampe? All right, that brings us to the CISA update. Chris Myers.
Thank you, Chair Bischoff. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Super. And Holly, can you bring up my slides? And if not, I can try to be a presenter as well, but I'll wait for word on you. Super, thank you. We'll get started today. Something that deviates from the slides a little bit here. Notice was sent out recently for a encryption key compromise. This affects the National Interoperability Key that's distributed through the National Law Enforcement Communications Center out of Florida. The key that has been confirmed to be compromised falls under SLN5. In terms of some manufacturers, they call that CKR. But if you do have those encryption keys that are designed to be national keys, if you have SLN5, there's a directive now from CISA that asks users to please stop using that because the security of those communications can no longer be guaranteed using that specific encryption key. Now that is a DES key, which uses a legacy algorithm. It is a static key and has not been updated in quite some time since it was released. Now, mind you, again, this may not affect your system if you don't use SLN5. Even if you do use SLN5, it may not be the same key. So I'd encourage you to check with some administrators to see if you are using that. If you are, the recommendation from CISA is to stop using that with that confirmed compromise. There is some concern also about SLN6, which would be an AES key specifically. That is a national interop key. However, that has not yet been confirmed. Once we have any levels of confirmation on that, I will let this group know. Best thing right now, though, once again, discontinue use of SLN5 and check with your system admins to see if you are using that anywhere and make the appropriate adjustments to ensure that those critical communications are kept secure. I can take any questions on that at the end of this briefing as well. We'll move into an update quick on some of our priority telecommunication services. Every year we kind of look at the end numbers and kind of see where some states are. Iowa, in terms of using GETS, which is that landline priority, there's currently just over 3,000 subscribers within the state with an estimated adoption rate of 6.5%. Over the last couple of years, these adoption rates have declined, and that's because the eligibility requirements for these services has expanded quite a bit. So what that means for the group here is that more people are eligible, so the adoption rates have dropped per state. Anybody that fits public safety or public service or falls within some of the 16 critical infrastructure sectors within your state are eligible. So if you start thinking about your utilities, your roads, your government administration, they are all eligible for GETS. Likewise, they're also eligible for WPS. As of last check on Monday, there were right around 2,200 subscribers to wireless priority service. This is an estimated adoption rate of 4.7% for the state. The thing that's nice about WPS is it is a perfect complement to services that give you some level of priority already, and it does carry across networks. So let's say your carrier gives you some level of priority calling, but you're calling someone else that you don't know what network they're on, or they may be using a different network entirely. using WPS ensures that that call gets priority from your origin point all the way to its destination. Nationwide, we have right around 387,000 subscribers for telecommunications service priority. This is a service that gets you elevated priority for restoration of key connections. Think about your core connected dispatch consoles. Think about your 911 trunks. Think about your communications with your alerts and warnings equipment infrastructure within your service area. Those are all TSP eligible. And what that does, if there is an outage, it gets you moved to the top of the list for restoration. Gets and WPS are free add-ons to your existing services. Gets follows you, the person. WPS is married to your cell phone number specifically. And TSP is something that your service carrier may charge a small fee for. That fee doesn't come from us, it comes from your carrier. One unique thing about TSP is that as you are getting lines installed as well, you can opt to have them TSP protected once that contract is signed, and you may be able to get some priority installation as well. Any questions on these can please be directed to me. And if you have an interest in getting more of your personnel connected to GETS and WPS, or if you want to connect, say, services within your PSAP or communication center through TSP, please let me know and we'll get the ball rolling on that. On the next slide, I do have an update for our technical assistance program across the country. We've had a lot of deliveries in Iowa over the last year. A quick update on the ORAP project in Carroll County, which is that Operational Rapid Assessment for Emergency Medical Services, and then the follow-up deliveries. Our subject matter experts continue to work with Carroll on those follow-up deliveries. As of recently, they've been very standard operating guidance focused. The additional TAs are still ready to go, and this does include assistance with the update to the statewide EMS plan. Haley's well in the loop on those, and as this progresses along, we'll keep the board updated with how that is progressing. With respect to current and future TA requests, the continuing resolution we're under is certainly not making it easy to get any budget clarity for the delivery of TAs, but deliveries are still continuing. Notice has been sent to ECD to be ready to start up the COMEX delivery for February County, depending on board action today, along with potential for COML, so that things are primed and ready to go. The Incident Tactical Dispatcher Course in West Des Moines should continue as scheduled, and as Travis mentioned before, it's near capacity, which is fantastic. Iowa strategically is in a very good spot for continued TA assistance. You've all been very judicious and effective with your use of TA in the past, and that has been communicated to ECD leadership. So things should be able to continue for the most part, even in this situation we're in that lacks a lot of clarity. On the next slide, I do want to inform the group of a new initiative that CISA has started as well. Starting in November, CISA launched the Shields Ready campaign. This is a companion to the Shields Up campaign that was released last year that was highly cyber focused. Shields Ready focuses on cyber and critical infrastructure, and it is designed to help enhance the overall security and resilience of the nation's critical infrastructure with a focus of resolving to be resilient. And this is identifying your key critical assets and understanding what those dependencies are, assessing your risk, developing a plan and exercising that plan, and then, of course, the commitment to continually adapt and improve your processes, your security, and also your overall posture. Shields Ready, you can read more about it on CISA's website. It's available. No sensitive information is disclosed, but there is good preparatory information that is available for viewing and download. Finally, some regional items of note to share with the group. There is a little bit going on around the region. Missouri is holding a PSAP cybersecurity webinar on Wednesday, January 10th, and Nebraska is having a virtual communications unit leader course developed to them that is going to span 2 weekends. This is a bit of a unique delivery, but it is designed and focused on those volunteers that are unable to travel and may not be able to take time off from their primary employer to take this course. This is an experimental delivery for us, so I will let everybody know how that goes. And of course, we have the FEMA Region 7 RecWig meeting coming up on January 30th. That is my report for the day, Chair Bischoff. I can go ahead and take any questions.
Great. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate all the information. Are there any questions for Chris?
Yes, this is Patrick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Chris, with this potential compromise of SLN6, we've been working with this discipline-specific encryption, and of course, I've never come up with a recommendation for users to use those two frequencies on the NIFOG that are assigned 6 and 12, and maybe it's probably a good thing that I haven't at this point. What do you think would happen if that number 6 SLN gets compromised, how it's going to affect those frequencies that are assigned that in that NIFOG?
So a similar recommendation in that case would likely come down, assuming the compromise can be verified, without mentioning any type of specifics that would go into the compromise or how it was discovered or who it may have affected. There would likely be a recommendation to discontinue use of SLN6. The other SLN you mentioned is a key that's updated annually, and that is not affected by something like this. Keep in mind with those static keys, the longer they're static, the longer they're unchanged, the more likely there is to be a compromise. But it would cause a lot of problems as far as rekeying, depending on the agency size, their capabilities, and how accessible their equipment is. That can have a huge impact on how quickly an agency can roll over to a new key. And if you start thinking about keys that are distributed nationally, the logistics get even tougher. So in that case, I would encourage you as a group, if you are looking at using some of those frequencies with some of those national interop keys, to consider the pros and cons of using each one versus what you may already have access to within your state. If I remember right, Iowa has reserved 3 of their own SLNs for interoperability, and that may be an option because there's a little bit more control over the sharing, the update cycle, and who has access to them, at least within the state's blue. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it gives us something else to talk about in the technology committee. But thanks.
Great. Are there any other questions for Chris? Great. Thank you, Chris, for your report. Much appreciated. That brings us to old business and discipline-specific encryption policy. Chair Updike.
Yeah, Holly, can I share my screen again?
Yeah.
Or we can use yours. It's okay. I want to explain to everybody that we've been working on this discipline-specific encryption topic for these conventional channels that already exist. And so, the document was put out there as a 30-day comment, and then at the 11th hour, I realized that, this really isn't written as a policy. It's just written as, hey, here it is. And so my first concern with the board members and everyone out there is first off, do we even vote on this as it is written? Because it's not really worded as a policy. So, it's kind of written with its original generic form, and then I modified basically the introduction of it at the last minute because I've been busy, and it didn't dawn on me until then that I needed to change that. So I guess the question to the board is do we even vote on this as it's written? Do we send it back and reword it more as a policy, or do we vote on it and adopt it as it's written?
I guess the way I was seeing this was an effective way to communicate what was happening and what was being proposed, and that these if adopted or if approved, not so much approving the piece of paper as much as it is approving the concept, that then these talk groups would get added to the 217A and the appropriate existing policies and procedures that talk about the channels and talk groups that need to be programmed into radios and what their uses are. That this would, if this was adopted, the concept, that then there would be a trickle-down effect, that there wouldn't be an independent policy that talked about this. It would be integrated to our existing documents as appropriate, so that there's still a single place for a user to look at and see everything that applies to that topic, as opposed to having to go find a whole bunch of policies to get the whole picture.
Okay.
That was my interpretation of how it was being communicated. I don't know how others if others saw it that way, or if
I started to overthink things, and so if that's what we're going to do, then I'm okay with continuing on with explaining one last time what this document is saying and what it's going to accomplish.
Yeah, I guess let's open it up for other questions and make sure there's no other concerns, and we were all on the same page, and we're not separate. Are there any questions from the board about the action that's before us, and that we're approving the concept that then will get integrated into existing documents, 217A, and existing policies and procedures as to what the Isics talk groups and channels are? All right, hearing none, Patrick, continue with the explanation, and we'll take appropriate action after your explanation.
Okay. So to make it really simple, we've got 3 existing conventional 700 meg channels that are currently named iTalk channels. So the concept is to change those names and then add 6 additional frequencies, with 3 of those additional frequencies being set aside for specific encrypted use. Now, the other part of this is coming up in the next agenda item to vote on those additional frequencies. So the goal right now is to adopt this document with those words on there and those channels set aside as they're listed, and then we'll get to the vote on whether to approve the licensing, which I'll explain that, of those additional 6 frequencies. That simple enough?
Sure. So are there any questions for Patrick before we entertain a motion? Patrick, would you like to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we accept this document as written to change the names of these 3 existing channels in the 700 meg plan that's listed in the ICS 217A, and accept all other wording with the idea that the 6 additional frequencies would be approved.
Is there a second?
Dave will second if I can.
Very well. All those in favor of the motion to adopt the language as presented, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Patrick, thank you for your work on this and the technology committee. This was a lot to work through, and was coming at the request of end users. So appreciate those efforts very much.
Yeah, sorry for the confusion.
Yeah, no, we're all good. That brings us to new business and the approval of users. Chair Hess. Wendy, you are muted.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
So we have 2 applications for approval today. The first one is the Independence Mental Health Institute. It's an updated application going to level 2, and the Muscatine County Joint Communications, which is also an updated application moving to level 4. So I will move to approve, make a motion to approve both those applications.
Excellent. Is there a second?
Benson will second.
All those in favor of approving the new users as described, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That brings us to the approval of a 30-day comment period on the policy statement on policy and standard adoption, review, and revision. Chair Ness.
Is Chair Ness still on?
Yes, he is, and he's unmuted. Dave, we're unable to hear you, sir.
I'm sorry, I'm walking into a meeting. If Haley's able to take this, that'd be great.
Fantastic, thank
I
you.
will do that.
Haley?
Yes, thank you. So the Governors Committee created this policy. I can't see the screen, but this is the 2023-01.G. Is that correct? That we've got up?
What's in front of us is 02.
Okay, 02. That's fine. We can go with that one. It's about how to go about creating new policy as well as reviewing and revisioning policies. It's been through each of the committees and back to governance. Who would like to recommend to the board to approve a 30-day comment period be open for this? If there's any questions before a motion is made, please let me know.
Are there any questions regarding this policy going out for a 30-day comment period? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to put this document out for 30-day comment.
And a second?
Benson will second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. The next item is also an approval of a 30-day comment period for policy statement on Isicsb policy naming and convention. Swick-Nichols, can you brief us on this item?
Yep, so same thing. I think this one will be then 2023-01.G for governance. It explains the naming of the policies. It also explains that moving forward as policies are brought up for review in accordance with that policy we just discussed, the old policies will then be named in accordance with this policy naming standard. So each policy will be named based on the year in which it was created and then just in order. So this will be the first one of 2023. The one we just discussed will be the second one of 2023. And then the dot and the letter corresponds to which committee it most aligns with. Now, some policies and standards will align with more than one committee, but we'll just determine one that it aligns with, and then that committee will know that they're kind of responsible for keeping track and reviewing and revising it. So that's in a nutshell what this says, and unless there's any questions, which I can answer for the group, I would recommend a motion to put this up for a 30-day comment as well.
All right. I need a motion from a board member.
Benson will make a motion to send this out for 30-day comment.
Thank you.
I'll second that. Patrick will second that.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That brings us to item D, approval of 6 additional 700 megahertz frequency for discipline-specific encryption. When we amended the agenda, this also got added to rename those talk groups. Turns out I put that on the wrong item. That should have been on the old business, so I apologize for that. But Patrick, if you would talk to us about the items listed regarding the discipline-specific encryption and the frequencies associated.
So as can be seen on the agenda item, we're looking at adding 6 additional frequencies through the licensing coordination, all of that process. So you've got channels, I'm not going to read them all because you can see them, 952 and 912, and you just go down the list. And so we're looking for approval to go ahead and license those 6 frequencies through the necessary processes up to the FCC, and not exceed $2,000 in expenses to license those. I can't imagine it would be that much, only because we just did the air to ground channels and it was pretty low cost to do that. But just to make sure. So, unless there's any questions, I'm going to make the motion that we approve the licensing of these 6 700 meg frequencies, go through the licensing process, and not exceed $2,000 in expenses to do that.
Thank you, Patrick. That's in the form of a motion. Is there a second?
Mike will second.
Are there any questions before we vote? Hearing none, all those in favor of going forward with the licensing process in a manner that will not exceed $2,000, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Patrick.
And I'll be
Item
working
E.
with Swick. I'll work with Swick Nichols on that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks.
Item E, ComL TA request for Pottawatomie County, Swick Nichols.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So we had a request directly from Pottawatomie County to hold a communications unit leader at their home base there because they have a number of individuals that they would like to send and can fill up, 6 to 8 spots. So we're asking the board to approve or make a motion to go ahead and submit that TA request to CISA, and hopefully then they will be able to, within their budget constraints, some things that they're going through, help us find a time to schedule that, probably late fall 2024. 2024 I'm thinking will happen. So I would recommend that the board make a motion to approve that TA request.
Perfect. Chair Solom, would you like to make the motion? If you could step to the microphone.
Sorry, I had to walk across the room.
Yeah, no worries.
I'll make that motion.
Excellent. Thank you. Is there a second?
Do I just stay here for the next one?
Was there a second in the room?
Well, no second.
Vote in a second. Thank you. All those in favor of moving forward with the ComL TA request, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. The next item is the COMEX TA request. Swick Nichols.
Okay, thank you.
Swick Nichols, are you there? I think we lost Haley. Chair Slalom, could you pinch hit regarding the TA request for the COMEX?
I don't have the information with me, but it's the same request for the ComX, which I believe we were looking at.
Story County.
Yeah, I can't remember the time frame though.
That's okay.
We've talked about it for so long,
Yep.
but
Yep. So it's a COMEX request for Story County. This will give everyone an opportunity to get their field guidebooks
right. I know we were going to
completed,
do
their
it
test
after.
books completed.
Yeah, after. I think we were looking to try to do it after the ComL, but that's about all I got.
Yep, that's fine. That's enough. Would you put together a motion for me, please?
I move to put in the TA request, obviously, given the restraints, but we're hopefully get it passed. So I put in the request.
Excellent. Is there a second?
Benson will second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That brings us to item G, approve funds to provide lunch for the February SCIP workshop. Chair Brown.
I don't think Haley is on. She has better information about this, but we have a workshop in February for the SCIP. And I think to keep it a working session, I think Haley's thought was in order to work through lunch, we could keep a very minimum, simple lunch for everybody, offer a simple lunch for everybody that we kept under $10 per person, to kind of keep everybody there and working on the SCIP together on that. So I would make a motion that we approve funding for that.
Great, thank you. Is there a second?
Benson will second.
All those in favor of providing a simple lunch for the February SCIP meetings for attendees to keep the meeting efficient and effective, please vote your approval of the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That brings us to the public comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to address the board?
Chair Bischoff, this is Haley. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Sorry,
hear
I
you.
lost connection again. Just one thing for that. Thank you for voting to allow that meal. I will need a list of those who plan to be in attendance to help with the ordering, but also some required paperwork that's through the state. So I'll be reaching out, but please, if you plan to attend, make sure I know that. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you. Are there any members of the public? Is there anyone present in the room that would like to speak? All right, hearing none, that brings us to adjournment. I'd entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll make the motion that we adjourn.
And the second?
Second by Benson.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Great, thank you all. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.